Hi guys, so I'm gonna let the random number generator pick how many hours I read today. So let's get to it. I pressed it. Three. I have to read for 3 hours today. My camera is probably gonna die soon. But yeah, so I look great right now. Obviously, it's if you didn't see on my phone, it's 3:45 a.m. I ended up not sleeping. Big surprise here. Yeah, I ended up not sleeping last night. I just like watched YouTube, then got in the mood to read, so I decided why not just go ahead and start my random number generator vlog. So yeah, so I have to read for 3 hours today, which isn't that much, but it's a little bit more than what I usually read. So yeah, so it's gonna be like a little bit of a challenge, but not too much of a challenge, you know? So yeah, I don't know what book I'm gonna read first, so I'm gonna go kind of search around for a book to read. I have Iron Flame, but I'm kind of reading that for another vlog, so I think I'm gonna read that maybe later on today, but not read it right now because I really want to read A History of My Brief Body because I'm like halfway done with that. But yeah, I'm gonna read A History of My Brief Body by Billy Ray Belcourt, I think. It's a story about a queer indigenous guy living in Canada, and it really shows his struggles. It's like his memoir, but like written kind of like a poetry style, like a lyrical style. I'm gonna start reading and I'll give you an update whenever I have one. But yeah, so I have to read for 3 hours and I hope you enjoy. Okay guys, so I read about 30 pages of a history of my brief body, and that was at 3 a.m. this morning, and I didn't sleep last night, but I went to sleep like a little bit after I read this, and then I slept for most of the day. So right now it is 6:49 p.m. and I still have 2 hours and 30 minutes to read something. Actually 2 hours and 20 minutes because it was about 39 minutes that I read before the end of the day, and this is what I'm going to be reading. This book kind of reminds me of something I would have read in in high school. It's very heavy on like the sexual implications of queerness and stuff, and that's really what I used to read in high school, and it's really good so far. It's pretty sad actually, not like super sad, but it's pretty sad with what he has to deal with and everything that has gone on in his life, but it's very good. It's very eye-opening, so I would recommend this book so far. I'm only 79 pages out of 128 pages, so I'm a little bit over halfway done with this book. So hopefully I'll finish this tonight and then go on to read Iron Flame. But yeah, so right now I'm just gonna finish this, and it's just a beautiful cover. Like, I love the colors on it. It's so gorgeous. But yeah, I don't really know what to say about this book besides the fact that like it's very heavy on the sex content, and it's pretty descriptive with it. So if you're like a minor, maybe don't read this. hours. This book just made me cry like crazy. So in the end, this isn't a spoiler, it's a memoir. Like, this is common knowledge. Well, it's knowledge, it happened on the news. In 2016, I think is what it said, 2016, there was a mass shooting in Florida at a queer club. I remember when that happened, he was talking about it in this book. It was a tough time for us queer people when that happened. But I learned that it was on Latin night. I learned that it was on Latin night. I didn't know that when I was a teenager. But I remember the shooting happening, and it was a really tough time for a lot of queers, and it was a really tough time for me whenever I heard about that in 2016. I was young, and I just recently, like, not recently, it'd been about 3 years since I came out as bisexual, and it was a tough time. I have to say that, like, and he talking about that and really diving into that was really tough to hear about, because like I said, I remember that happening and I remember crying about it. There's a lot of dark subjects in here. Just wanted to let you know that before you read this, if you picked this up because of me or someone else. But yeah, this is a very beautiful story. Like, well, I say beautiful, it's beautifully written. It's a very sad story. It's a memoir written in poetic language and in poetry and just different ways of writing. But it all flows together into how hard it is to be an Indigenous man, queer man in Canada, and even in the US. It goes into about the US because, like I said, that happened in Florida, and there's some talk about things that happened in the US also. It was very touching. It's hard to get through all at once. I shouldn't have read 2 hours worth of it. It took me 2 hours to read this. I had like 60 pages left and it took me 2 hours to read. Like, that's how hard it was. Like, I had to reread things. I had to stop and just cry a couple times, and it's probably one of the most touching books I've ever read. He quotes Ocean Vuong a lot. Vuong? How do you say his name? Ocean Vuong. Vuong? I don't know. I can't pronounce it, sorry. But he quotes him a lot, and I actually read one of his poetry collections. This is probably like this is an amazing story. Like, I loved it so much. It was extremely touching, and I highly recommend it. He goes into talk about like the schools there. I can't remember the first word. The bad schools, the traumatic schools that Canada formed for Indigenous people, and also like different things that happened throughout queer and Indigenous history. And not being a person of color, I know it's not directed towards me, but with the queer part of it, I feel very touched by it, because although I've never really been put down for being bisexual, I know a lot of people do. So now I'm going to probably read Iron Flame, because I'm only on chapter 12, which is page 109, and there are over 600 pages in this book, and I need to hurry up because I also have a vlog to do for it, so I need to hurry up and do that. So I'm gonna read that after I stop getting all emotional and stuff, you know, like, because this is a romantasy that is extremely emotional later. So I need to get my senses together and relax for a second. So yeah, I'm gonna watch probably a YouTube video, and then I'm gonna get to reading. I have 1 hour left, 58 minutes left to read, and I'll probably have to do that later tonight whenever my husband goes to bed, because he will be home sometime soon. Let me check. I don't know when he's getting home, but when he does get home, we're gonna hang out together. So I won't be able to read, but I'm gonna read until then. So maybe he'll be home soon. I don't know. But he's had a bad day, so hopefully he's home soon and I can make him feel better. But yeah, so I'm gonna go and read now. It is currently 12:48 and I made it to 3 hours, and yeah, so the first book I read was A History of My Brief Body by Billy Ray Belcourt, and then the second book I read was Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, and that's just, I read for 3 hours. It wasn't a lot of pages. I don't really know how many pages I read, but I read quite a few because I kept reading after the 3 hours was finished, just because like something not big was happening in Iron Flame, but like it was in the middle of something that was happening between like several different chapters, so I just decided to continue reading. And so this is what I'm currently on. But that is the end of this little vlog. Sorry it was so short. I didn't get much footage. There wasn't really much to do because it was only 3 hours long. But yeah, so I really liked the first book, and like I said, I didn't finish this one. I just read like maybe 50 pages of it, and like I'm exhausted right now, so I'm gonna go to bed. So yeah, so good night. I'll probably do this challenge another time, but not anytime soon. So good night.